Hey, this is Paul Gough. Welcome to a beautiful San Diego today. A question that I received this morning in a coaching call that I wanted to share the answer with you was this: how do you get a receptionist to do something that she ultimately isn't comfortable doing? All right. A big problem that a lot of clinics are having these days as they move into a new era and as we move into the new healthcare economy, we need staff members, we need players within our team who can do different roles. Possibly roles that are very different and possibly uncomfortable from what they've been used to in the past. Now, the answer, there is a strategic answer and there is a bit more of a spiritual and a philosophical answer. And ultimately, if you try to tackle a receptionist who simply isn't comfortable with a new role that she has to do. For example, if you're doing lead generation style ads, where now we're ringing out and we're trying to build and garnish relationships with prospects, which is what marketing really is, versus accepting incoming calls from patients who have been referred by doctors, which is more of a sales model, which is these people are coming in, they're just booking appointments, a sale is made, an appointment is secured, and people move into becoming a patient, all right? A lot of receptionists are very comfortable with that incoming call, and yet they're not so comfortable with the call out, having to chase a potential patient to begin a relationship with them that may ultimately see them become a patient and a very high value patient at your practice. So how do you get them to feel comfortable? First of all, you have to accept and you have to be very sure on whether or not the person that you've got is right for the role. There is no point in me trying to get somebody who wants to play linebacker to try to play quarterback. It's not going to happen. I may be able to get away with it for a couple of games, but if I keep playing the linebacker in the position of the quarterback, I'm definitely not going to get to the Super Bowl. So I have to have that conversation with myself first, and I have to work out as a business owner, is this worth my time and my energy and my effort to try and convince somebody who is very good as a linebacker, but is ultimately not going to be very good in a quarterback? And again, the analogy of the NFL is something that I love, and I talk to a lot of PT business owners about, because ultimately what a lot of clinics have done recently, or over the last 10, 15, 20, 50 years probably for a lot of PT clinics, is they have played defensive. They have waited for somebody to come to them. So they've waited for the opposition, the team, to run at them. That is the equivalent of a referral from a doctor making its way to you. You played defensive. Now we're playing offensive, okay? We're taking the attack to the public with direct marketing, and that requires a completely different play. So we have to have somebody who's very comfortable picking up the phone to a prospect who may not be always on the phone wanting to hear from you. That's just the reality of marketing. Marketing is about making calls to prospects, to people who have shown some kind of level of interest. Now that level of interest can be high, it can be low, it can be somewhere in the middle. We don't always know where that person is going to be when they first answer the phone. So we have to have a player who's comfortable with that. And to help them, the way that I helped my team, and particularly Vicky, who is the superstar, who is our follow-up genius, if you like, the conversation that I had with Vicky when I first asked her to move into this role, from the incoming role to the outcoming role, was to consider this fact. If you've got a person who's made an inquiry at your practice, has took some information on back pain, has indicated to us, a physio clinic, that they have chronic lower back pain and they don't want to suffer with that for the rest of their lives, the way that I got Vicky on board with it was to consider the fact that that could be her mother, it could be her grandmother, or it could be her grandfather. And at what point would you want us to stop ringing that person? At what point would you want us to stop giving up on that person? At what point would you want us to just say, hey, okay, you don't want to talk to us, even though we know you have a problem? Because I know that if somebody in their 50s and 60s has chronic lower back pain, there will be friends and family who are worried, there will be kids, there will be partners, there will be husbands, wives, work colleagues who are worried at the state of the health of that particular person. And if that happens to be your grandmother, I know that you as a grandchild or as a kid, if that's your mother, you will be worried about the impact that the chronic lower back pain is having upon your mother or your father. And I'd like to think that you would appreciate my clinic never stopping up or never giving up on making a call to your mother or to your grandmother to help them, in spite of their initial nervousness, skepticism, maybe even resentment or even anger towards the system or how they've been treated in the past, because more often than not, that's what you're up against. You're not up against somebody who doesn't want to speak to you. You're up against somebody who is very skeptical, very nervous, has been trained since the moment that they were born not to speak to strangers. It's an inbuilt belief pattern that we have. And now that we're having to make these phone calls out, yeah, 1 or 2 calls can be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's perfectly normal. And like I said, the way that I help my secretaries over it, first of all, I had to look at it and think, can this girl play quarterback? Can she be the superstar? And if I believe that she can, because she has the empathetical skills, the caring skills, the lack of worrying about her self skills, which is another big thing. A lot of people are more worried about how they feel when they make these calls than how they're trying to make a potential new patient feel, which is a pretty big and significant thing. If you have somebody who's more worried about themselves and how they feel than the person that they're trying to help, then maybe they're not right for the role, and maybe they're not even right for your organization. And then we have to look and think, okay, how can we help you overcome the obstacle? And the real obstacle is that the person might be a little bit resentful, a little bit nervous, a little bit skeptical, but we can help our girl, our person, overcome that by explaining to them, what if this was your mother? What if this was your father? When would you want us to stop that follow-up call? I know that you would never want me to stop ringing your mother or father if she had chronic lower back pain because she wasn't listening to you, she wasn't listening to our other kids or grandkids or any work colleagues. We would probably become your hope if that was your mother that we were trying to speak to. So anyway, that's how I get my staff on board. It's both strategic, it's philosophical, and it's pretty deep, but it's the questions that you need to ask yourself and come up with the answers to. And if you can, you're going to end up with somebody in the right position to impact the right people to help your business succeed.